A vehicle needs fuel to move. In the same way we need oxygen to function. All the cells in our body need oxygen to create energy, but how this oxygen reach the cells? It reached through the process of respiration. The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide is called respiration. We take thousands of breaths a day thanks to the respiratory system. 3D animation about the respiratory system. Let's understand it more clearly. Air enters the respiratory system through the nose or the mouth. If it goes in the nostrils, the air is warmed and humidified. Tiny hairs in nose called cilia, which protect the nasal passageways and other parts of the respiratory tract, filtering out dust and other particles that enter the nose through the breathed air. If you pluck out or trim your nose hair, you expose yourself to the possibility that additional allergens will flow into your lungs. Some individuals can experience a heightened risk of asthma because of this. A 2011 study examined patients who had seasonal allergies and evaluated their risk for developing asthma later in life in correlation with their shortened nose hair. It was discovered that those with the least amount of nose hair were at the greatest risk of developing asthma. The two openings of the airway, the nasal cavity and the mouth, meet at the pharynx or throat. The pharynx is part of the digestive system and the respiratory system because it carries both food and air. At the bottom of the pharynx, this pathway divides in two, one for food, the esophagus, which leads to the stomach, and the other for air. The epiglottis, a small flap of tissue, covers the air-only passage when we swallow, stops food from entering the larynx. This helps prevent coughing or choking after swallowing. The larynx, or voice box, is the top part of the air-only pipe. This short tube contains a pair of vocal cords, which vibrate to make sounds. How you feel your larynx? Your vocal cords are inside your voice box, which is on top of your windpipe, directly behind your Adam's apple. Your Adam's apple is the bony protrusion in the front of your throat at the midpoint. If you put a finger or two on this spot and swallow, you should feel the protrusion move on. The trachea, or windpipe, is the continuation of the airway below the larynx. The walls of the trachea are strengthened by stiff rings of cartilage to keep it open. The trachea is also lined with cilia, which sweep fluids and foreign particles out of the airway so that they stay out of the lungs. From the trachea, air moves into the lungs through tubes called bronchi. The bronchi lead to smaller tubes called bronchioles, which look like the branches of a tree. At the ends of the bronchioles are tiny sacs called alveoli. Oxygen gets into the blood through tiny blood vessels around the alveoli. Red blood cells pick up the oxygen and deliver it to the body's cells. The lungs also contain elastic tissues that allow them to inflate and deflate without losing shape. They're covered by a thin lining called the pleura. The chest cavity or thorax is the airtight box that houses the bronchial tree, lungs, heart and other structures. The top and sides of the thorax are formed by the ribs and attached muscles, and the bottom is formed by a large muscle called the diaphragm. The chest walls form a protection cage around the lungs and other contents of the chest cavity. When you breath out, the same thing happens only in reverse. This is how the body gets rid of carbon dioxide. The blood collects carbon dioxide from all over the body and carries it back to the air in the alveoli. From the alveoli, air moves out of the lungs through the bronchioles and bronchi. Finally, air leaves the body the same way it came in, through the nose and mouth.